Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, sir.
Author D. Watkins. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
Hey, good morning. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, sir.
Now, we thank you for showing up today for us. I know we've had conversations about me wanting to get you up here on the Breakfast Club. And right now you have this book, We Speak for Ourselves, A Word from Forgotten Black America. But you're already a New York Times bestselling author.
Try to get that again.
Congratulations.
And editor-at-large at Salon
Thank you.
as well. So I think your story is fascinating, how you even started in this business of becoming an author. So I would love for you to just talk about that and give people a little backstory about being from Baltimore and how you became a best-selling New York Times best-selling author.
So I thought my story was worthless, and I thought people who came from East Baltimore like me had stories that was worthless. Coming up in Baltimore City and just going through the school system, you never got stories about any black experience, good or bad. Like, we straight got the Crucible and Mark Twain and any and everything you young people in a predominantly black city wouldn't want to read.
All that bullshit.
as a result, we didn't read. And when I look at my life and the mistakes I made, from being in the streets, from selling drugs, from signing poor mortgage agreements, all of these things are directly connected to my inability to think critically. So one day I was in a hospital, and a nurse gave me this book called The Coldest Winter Ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that book in a day. I did
Classic
not know.
Sister Soldier, baby.
Sister Soldier, she pulled up, man. Well, she didn't pull up, but the nurse pulled up with the book.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know you can write a book about a drug family, and that's when I'm from. So when I read that book, it changed everything for me, and I started reading everything because that book turned into me reading Clockers, which many people know the Spike Lee film with Mekhi Phifer. And then, I found out that dude was inspired by the Beat Poet. So I read like Naked Lunch and On the Road, and then I'm reading like Fyodor Dostoevsky, and now I'm fully in. So that one book changed everything for me, and that put me on the path to becoming a writer.
Now, when you talk about telling those stories, I mean, those stories were being told in music. They were being told in cinema. Why was it the book specifically that made you feel like, oh, I can tell mine?
Because you have to sub-vocalize. Like, you have to do the physical work of reading a book. Like, I tell all my students, I'm a professor at the University of Baltimore, and my students beat me down. Professor Watkins, can we just use the audiobook? And I'm like, dog, you can use it as a resource if you can't really understand the content, but you have to physically do the work of reading. It's like exercise. It's the only way you'll learn how to be able to think at a level to be able to function the way we need to function.
I never listen to audiobooks. I only ever read books. But that's just out of habit.
That's changing for me now, though. Because I feel like I retain more information now when I listen. Because when you read, like, I used to love to read the physical books too, but it's like there's so many distractions in the world nowadays. You know what I mean?
You don't get distracted by audiobooks?
Not really. Not if I'm really committing to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm in the gym working out, if I'm on the treadmill running, and you get through them a little faster. I don't know. I feel like nowadays I'm retaining information more with the Audible.
So I did an event with Melissa Harris Perry like a month ago, and we had the same conversation. And she said, you know what? When you got to interview 30 people in like 2 weeks, you gonna listen to some audio.
Real,
so I was like, yeah, I feel you on that. But if you can physically do the work of reading, and you're right, you don't retain all of the information, but you retain more of what you talk about. So like they say, you retain about 10 to 15% of what you read, but 60% of what you talk about. So do things like go to Angela Yee's book club and
thank you for that.
Read the book and then talk about it with your friends because you retain more information.
Now let's start you as a youngin'. You was selling drugs. Now let's talk about you growing up and how you got into the drug game and you bought your bar and started becoming an author.
So when I was coming up, I never wanted to sell drugs. Like I as a kid, we looked up the drug dealers in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But then when my friends actually started selling drugs, it was kids who were like 13 and 14 years old had the lives of grown men. I would be like, yo, I got Keisha's phone number. She got a sister. We gonna go to the movies. And my homie would be like, nah, man, I gotta sell 250 pills by 8:30. Or I'd be like, yo, we going to school today. We got a trip. We going to like Six Flags. I want to go to Six Flags, but I got to sell X amount of pills or I'm not even coming to school. So when I started seeing that reality, I was like, yo, you know what? I'm going to give this school thing a shot. And I tried. And in the process, I lost my brother. I lost my best friend. And I'd still gotten to college, but I didn't go because I was depressed. But my friends pumped me up to go. And when I actually went, it was my first time ever being around white people. And people, New York is such a diverse place. So you know, I know a lot of people that have similar experiences, but Baltimore is like, it's a special place. It's everybody in Baltimore is black when you growing up. Even the white people, like everybody's black except for maybe like some teachers and like housing police and police officers and things like that. So I'm at this college with all these white kids. Loyola.
Okay, Loyola.
And I'm at this college with all these white kids, and it was culture shock for me. And when I say culture shock, it's the small things. Like somebody will be walking towards me in the hallway, and I'll be walking, and if you're looking at me, I'm gonna say, "Hey, what's up?" But and then when I would say that, they would look back like this. And I'm like, yo, what does that even mean, dog? And it was like a strange thing for me. So I dropped out of school and I went into the streets, and that's where I learned all of my real lessons, lessons that I carry in academia and in the art world today.
Because the difference between education and experience, that's why.
Yeah, the experience is so important. Like we value book smarts, but you know, I value the street education, and I value my family education and the social education that I even learned when I actually made it back to school.
But as a professor, you definitely think that education is important.
It's education. Education is everything, and we have to keep our kids reading. What I do in Baltimore with the Be More Writers Project is we train young writers. We train writers. One of the people who work with me is in the studio today, Charlamagne Fidel. He's a really talented writer and an example of what mentorship looks like. But part of the program is giving books to schools. So I've worked with foundations like Penn Faulkner and Hooks for Books, and we've donated thousands of copies of my books to Baltimore City Public Schools. And then the other side of that is I actually go to these schools and teach workshops so that the kids are actually getting a chance to meet an author, which never happens. You know, like Mark Twain never came to meet me when I was coming up.
Well,
he died a long time ago. Yeah. But you know, no author has ever came and talked to me and my friends at school.
Back to your story, you said that you went back home after you left school, and then you got into the street game. Now you said you bought a bar. Yeah, when I bought a liquor store, that was part of my exit strategy. So when we went through what we was going through in Baltimore in the early 2000s, which was like indictments and a lot of crazy stuff going on, I was looking for a way out, and I wanted to do something different with my life, and I told myself I was never going to sell another drug again, so I bought a liquor store. Stadium Hideaway. It was at 1046 West Lombard Street, and I didn't know anything about the liquor business, but I thought that I could sell anything, and it's crazy because it was a Korean spot a block away on this side, and then it was like a hick type bar on the other side of the street, which was like the small population of like older white people in Baltimore who don't really mingle with the rest of us, and we struggled. We struggled until I figured out poker machines. And this is like before we had a casino. Lotto poker machines. Yeah,
so this is before we had a casino. When I got those poker machines, I felt like I was getting drug money again, because people would sit there and they would play those machines all day, and those machines were actually how I ended up back at school, because I was in a bar one night, and like I said, initially we were struggling as far as like trying to pay the bills. Right. Solvency was a difficult thing. It really wasn't working, and then when I got the machines and we started making money, people started actually coming in the store mainly for the machines. They would drink liquor, but they mainly came in for the machines. And it was this one woman named Pat. And one night, it was just me and her in the bar, and I was like, rearranging shelves and stacking up boxes and stuff like that, and she was on the machine by herself. And when I came out the back, looked at her, she just had her head down. And I'm like, man, Pat, what's wrong with you? And she was like, the machine beat me down. She said, I worked 80 plus hours over the last 2 weeks, and I put every single last penny into this machine, and I felt bad as I did when I was on the street. Yeah. So I said, you know what, stay right here. And I run in the back and grab like a little $300-400, and I come back and I say, hey, you know what, take this. You don't got to pay me back, or if you want to pay me back, you can, but just hold that, and we good. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much, baby. You an angel, this, that, and the third. And I was like, it's love.
I respect that, but she made a choice. It's not like she was doing anything illegal. It wasn't like you was doing anything illegal.
Well, it wasn't legal at the time. Gambling wasn't legal. Like, we got raided like 3 times.
But, so you didn't say that. You didn't have that part to the story.
But this is what happened. I gave her that money, and I went in the back, and I finished doing what I was doing. And when I came back, she put the rest of that money in the machine. And that was it for me. At that point, I was like, yo. And at the time, like, that little area of Baltimore City was starting to pop. Like, it's like southwest Baltimore, and it's kind of near both of the stadiums, and it's near University Medical Center, and they were building like a biopark. So it's like people wanted property, and they wanted that liquor license, and it was easy for me to sell it, so I sold it, and that's when I went back to school and and started my career.
Now let's talk about Too Poor for Pop Culture. And that's the article that you wrote. So let's discuss what made you write that article and what happened after that.
It's crazy that, we have like there's hashtag culture going on, and there's like a lot of social media activism and like a lot of big ideas out there.
Stay woke.
So a lot of woke people out there, and like
they need some sleep.
If you don't have, it's a chapter in the book called
I'm sick of
I'm
hates that
I hate
phrase.
it. I can't stand it. I think woke people are so goddamn tired.
Oh my God, it's I go in on them, but I feel like you don't even know these terms if you don't have Wi-Fi. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the neighborhood that I come from in East Baltimore, and the people that I serve, is if we have a conversation about, did you see there's a Black Lives Matter thing going on, and the homie would be like, yo, what's Black Lives Matter? You never heard of Black Lives Matter? Yo, it's a group of black people that advocate for this, that, and the third. And they like, nah. Never heard of it. And it's not that they against it, or it's not that they have a problem with it, but it's just not their vibe. So when I wrote the article Too Poor for Pop Culture, it was about Obama taking a selfie at Nelson Mandela's funeral, but the people I was around was talking about the story as if it was brand new, but the story was like months old. Mm-hmm. And the whole article was about the digital divide and how information is class-based. So like, if you don't have a smartphone, you can't play. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you can't play. If you can't get online, you can't play. If you need to get a job and you got to go fill out applications at the library because you don't have a computer, you only get to be on the computer for 30 minutes, and then you got to let somebody else get on. So you better be quick uploading your resumes, or you got to get back in line. So the article was about that, and it went viral, and it went crazy, around the city, because when I wrote the article, I was flat broke. I didn't have any money.
How did they read the article if they ain't got no smartphones?
They didn't read the article. White people all over
the world.
It
didn't go viral because
it was on Salon. So people who read Salon read the article, and it circulated, and Huffington Post and a bunch of other places picked it up. Mm-hmm. So mind you, I didn't know that the article was going that crazy, and I'm like, random stuff was happening. Like, I'm going into the store to get some. I was smoking cigarettes at the time, and it's like a white dude asked me, could I sign his arm or something? And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? I can't. I don't got two nickels to rub together. You asked me to sign your flesh like it was that good, but
I know he wasn't flirting.
Nah, I don't think so. I think I only got to tell people my pronouns. They already know. That's him. Cause that's God. That's big homie. That's GOAT. That's not. They already know my. They already know. They already know what time it is.
And then just the whole process of becoming an author, right? And even like for somebody like yourself at that time, it's not like you were a celebrity or people knew exactly who you were, because it's not easy to get a book deal. Nah, shout out to LaToya Smith. She was at Hachette at the time, and she wanted to sign me before this essay even published, because my agent had sent my information to them, but like nobody in her office was failing me. So after this essay blew up, I got an invite, and I came to. She told me come to New York. I had a meeting at like 5 o'clock, and I get everywhere early. Mm-hmm. So like even like the day I was here since 7 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? I know every doorman here. So I get to places early, and I pulled up a couple hours early, and she was like, "What you doing here?" And I said, "Yo, it's a chance of me getting a book deal. Like it's impossible. It's hard to sell books." So
is it?
I mean, when you don't have like a big platform.
Yeah.
No, I'm just talking.
So my meeting was at 5, and the lady was like, she'll be 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes turned into like an hour, and then like another hour. And mind you, I got there early, so now it's like 7 o'clock, and I'm still sitting in the lobby, and she was like, "Yo, this is so disrespectful. You don't deserve this. You should go." And I'm like, "Go to what?" What I'm going back to when I leave here? I'm gonna sit here, and I'm gonna get this meeting. And when I came in there, the first thing the lady said, she said, "Oh, you from Baltimore? Oh, you just like Snoop from The Wire." So what I can do is we can package your book just like Snoop from The Wire, and we can put you out there. And I'm like, yo, that's a woman who's an actress, and she's doing a thing, and she has a compelling story. But I'm nothing like that. Like at the time, I was an adjunct professor, and the people who know me as a writer. I can write my own story. They'd given me this narrative about hooking up with a white dude to help me do my story, and he's a great writer and all that. And I'm like, yo, I'm a writer. I have a story, but I'm a storyteller. So, but that was a good thing for me, because I didn't turn up on her and I didn't get upset. She told me something real slick. Like, I knew I didn't know what I was talking about, but she showed me that she didn't know what she was talking about. So everything she said from that second on, I just disagreed with her. Even if she was like, yo, you know, Envy got a fatigue hoodie on. No, it's not. That's not fatigue. That's actually from another country called, you know what I'm saying?
What was the point of that, though?
So the point was to give her something that, or introduce her, or make her feel like she didn't know what she was small. She was little. She didn't understand. She thought she had an understanding of my world by comparing me to a person who I almost have nothing in common with, other than we from the same side of town. It's like me and you walking out this building and they saying, okay, that guy, they're the same thing. And you know, you from South Carolina, I'm from East Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know, we got this is a whole different vibe. We ride out dirt bikes through houses. I don't know what they do in South
Black
Carolina.
people are not monolithic, regardless of where we at.
At all. So that helped me out, and I got a deal, and and it worked out.
How hard is it to not turn up in situations? Because you've had many situations where you could have turned up, and you had to just be like, all right, I got to try a different approach.
I think for me it's easy now because there's like people who rely on me. Like I have a team of people, and if I do something stupid or crazy, it affects them and how they make their money.
But prior to that, there was like a white journalist who tried to call you out and say that you were
my friend saved my life. My homeboy saved my life.
Privileged, that you were rich.
Yeah. So
what you mean, growing up or now?
No. So a journalist who got the story. So there was a lot of trolls that was like commenting on the story. And this one guy said that I can't write an essay called Too Poor for Pop Culture because I have a Rolex and two Lexuses, and he been in both of them. And at the time I was driving a Honda like that had like on a donut, but I was on a donut for like a year and a half, and the fender was hanging off. So it's like, yo, I might be called a great.
Got you a pack.
Yo, call the great. You know what I mean? Yo, call the greatest book of record people up because that was a long time. And the whole angle, the dude who was writing these comments about me and trying to put these false stories about me was a guy who I went to undergrad with at University of Baltimore. And when I talked to one of his friends, I found out that his hang-up was he wanted to be the best writer from Baltimore. And I'm like, dog, nobody even care about us. Like, what are you talking about? Like, but the reporter had a friendship with him, and he took that story and he wrote his own article about the comments on my article because that's how big the article was locally. And when I first started coming to New York, like before I actually got that meeting and that deal, people was asking me about that article, like, what's up with that? And I'm like, yo, you want to see my bank statement? The stories takes place in Latrobe housing projects. You come through, pull up. You want to meet the people in the story? Let's have a real conversation. And the reporter didn't do any of that. I'm a journalist, so it's like if you're gonna give me an opportunity to meet your family, to talk to your friends, to really dig into and get like a real whole idea of who you are, I'm gonna take it. But this guy was a guy he was a white dude with the luxury of telling black stories or talking about black people without having any type of connection to them. So he's trying to tell these stories, but he don't even think enough of us to even pull up and try to verify the claims that he making. So if you got the heart to really come at me, you know, and at that particular time, like, you know,
that still gets you mad.
Yo, no, if somebody would have told me, like, yo, you know what, we saw what this guy did, and we're not gonna, we don't want to work with you, and I was asked out, I would have. I didn't mean to use profanity.
Express yourself, sir. Go ahead.
So if I was fucked up, and if you telling me at this particular time this guy's gonna, is ending my career before it gets started, then he would have had a serious problem. But my homie was like, yo, people are reading it, and it started out with the internet people, but then it started circulating through schools, and he was working with kids in schools, and that's kind of how like I got my first little connection with going into schools because young people was like, yo, I like it, and I didn't even write it thinking they would care about it, but the fact that it was so popular and the fact that teachers was vibing with it, it turned into, hey, can you come speak to my students? Right. And now I've been to like over 300 schools and jails across the country. I've been to every school in Baltimore City multiple times. And
how long ago was that article?
That article came out in 2014, February 6th.
If you had to update it now, how would you update it?
Yo, it's crazy as far as like the digital divide.
Yeah, because I feel like when you say too poor for pop culture, I think some people are too busy for pop culture as well. It's so much information, so much stuff happens all the time. Like, you didn't hear about that? I'm like, no, I was busy yesterday.
Yeah, it definitely too busy for pop culture, but I would definitely say that information is still class-based because everybody doesn't have access to technology.
You might not have a smartphone. You might not have a computer. You might not have Wi-Fi.
Listen, man.
You might go to a school that doesn't have access to those things.
As poor as people are nowadays, they find ways to get smartphones. I don't know how. You be seeing homeless people with smartphones. Be asking you for change, but then they have a smartphone. I'll be like, what?
Well, you know, a lot of it is you could prepay a lot of them cell phones to them services too.
You need money to prepay though. So if it came down to Wi-Fi or eating, what you gonna choose? Sometimes it goes to that as well. Mm-hmm. But if I could update the article, some people mentioned in that article has passed away, so definitely rest in peace to them. And that's another sad part of when you want to stay true to your neighborhood and you want to stay connected to people. Like people who came to my first book launch and people who I'm on pictures with from that book launch are dead now. And we have a real serious problem with just guns and violence in the city. And I think like collectively, all of us have to work really hard at trying to change that. And I try to engage the youth in any and every way I can, but I also try to align myself with other people that do the same in different ways. Like I have a homie that does fitness and he trains people in the neighborhood for free and he brings the equipment down to the park and he's making sure like, you know, he got grandmothers with like NFL type parachutes on running through the field, like really running so they don't get diabetes and had to have their foots chopped off and all that. And then I got other friends that do the same thing with like financial literacy and stuff like that. So it's like all of us just trying to like attack all of these systemic problems and it truly takes a village.
Now the book is called A Word from Forgotten Black America. And you also talk about how the people who are representing us may not even really understand what our experiences are because there's always somebody on TV that's the representative for Black people.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of those people are smart and a lot of those people make a lot of good points, but kind of like Charlamagne said earlier, like we're not just one thing. Like, you know, Reverend Al Sharpton has done some amazing things throughout his journey, but everything he says doesn't represent how you guys feel. You know what I mean? And it's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's a lot of people who hold these spaces, and it's a big responsibility. But I think that, you know, with all the technology that we do have and all the platform that we do have, I think we're all responsible for making sure we try to diversify those voices.
They try to do that to us now. Like, oh, you know, you represent for all y'all the gatekeepers of Black people. No, we not. Like we the gatekeepers of some, maybe. I hate the term gatekeepers, but we talk to some Black people, but some Black people don't agree with us.
But what you guys do that's great is you guys elevate a whole lot of different voices. So it's like, you know, those different perspectives are getting out there. And when people read the book, like they think the book is me attacking movements or people who hold these spaces. And really the book is about direct service. You know, I have so many students and young people that feel like they can tweet something or they can use a hashtag and, you know, they wake up and say, you know what? Black people are beautiful. I did my work. Activism is done. I'm about to go to the party. And I'm like, dog, like, you know, I went to a college and they had all these T-shirts made up that said like D. Watkins, a day of service. And they were like so proud. The little girl ran up to me and was like, look at this. And we even have one in 2X, your size. And I'm like, yo,
did that offend you?
Y'all wasted like nothing that I've ever done in my life that was valuable only took a day.
Right.
Like this is life work. So like when I say life work, I mean I was mentoring this kid and he graduated high school and I didn't see him for a while, but when I bumped into him, he was on his block and he was looking like crazy, like stressed out. And I said, yo, what's wrong? And he was like, yo, geez, somebody's trying to kill me. So I'm like, yo, you got somewhere to go? And he's like, my grandmother's house, she live in West Baltimore. So you beefing with somebody in East Baltimore, you can go to West Baltimore and it's like a video game. You get like new lives. So we went in his mother house and we packed up all his clothes and took him over his grandmother's house. And she said, hey, he can have the basement. And that was a good thing. So he called me up the next day and he was like, yo, I'm trying to go to school and you know what I got to do. And I tried to take him up Cottman State University while I was teaching that at the time, but he didn't have an SAT score. So I took him to Baltimore City Community College and the ladies at the front desk, like they fell in love with him, thought he was funny, a cool kid. So they gave him a free laptop. So now he got rent free at his grandmother's house. He got a brand new laptop and he's going to college. And now the semester's rolling around, and one of the dudes at this restaurant I know said he's looking for somebody to run dishes up and down the steps. I think a shorty off top. Right. And I bring him down there and meet the dude, and the guy was like, yo, you can start first week of the semester. So now this guy has all of these positive things going on. And I bumped into the manager maybe like a month, 2 months later. I didn't hear from the kid, and he was like, yo, shorty never showed up. Yeah. So I went over his grandmother's house and I was like, yo, where's he at? And she was like, he left. I ain't see him in weeks. And then and then I'm like, dang. So I started walking away and she's like, hey, but can you go to the store and get me some cigarettes? And that's just somebody's grandmother, so I'm not gonna say no. Right. So I went to the store and got her cigarettes. And then I didn't see shorty. And I bumped into him maybe like a couple months later. And when I pulled up on him, I was like, yo, what's up? So he walks over to my car.
You ain't got that Honda no more when you pulled up on him.
He tried to serve you?
I ain't had Honor no more. He tried to serve me. He was like, Unc, how many you want? He was like, Unc, how many you want? I was like, I ain't no unc. I'm your teacher. Like, what you talking about? And he was like, oh, my bad, Watkins. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get that job. I'm going to go start. I just had some stuff going on. So I got mad at him, and I just pulled off. Like, you a clown, yo. And then when
How trash was your car that he thought you was a fiend?
Yo, fiends got nice. Drugs is expensive. Fiends got nice cars. There's some fiends that's really. Yeah, Michael Irvin bought crack in a Bentley.
Come on, that's 1 out of a million.
Nah, so I realized I had to look at myself. Like, just because he didn't do what I thought he should have done, didn't give me a chance to throw him away, because you can't throw people away. And that's what I mean when I say it's
Please tell his cancel culture that.
You can't throw people away. So I pulled back up on him, and I told him, I was like, yo, I don't know what you're going through right now, but if you need me, my number's the same. Holler at me, and that's the best I can do. And other people who were around saw that, and it has benefited some of them, but that's the world we live in. Like, you can't throw people away. You have to always focus on outcomes. Sometimes we get caught up in our intentions, saying I intended to do this and I intended to do that. But if it didn't work out, if your plan didn't work, we can't blame the victim. We got to go back and look at ourselves. If we truly care about people and we truly love people, then we have to look at ourselves, or we not doing the work that we're supposed to be doing.
But that's the key word, work. Nobody's really doing work no more. Even when you talk about, like, you know, how people use social media. I was just having this debate the other day. I feel like it's more noise around certain issues now, but not actual work being done. So you can tweet Black Lives Matter, you can tweet that you pro-woman and all this stuff, but what work are you actually doing to make, you know, the world a better place?
I was in a coffee shop, and this dude ran up on me, and he was like, hey, man, I just slayed this Russian asshole on Twitter, bro. I slayed him. And I'm like, yo, that's what's up. No, my bad. He ain't saying Russian, my bad. He said white supremacist. He said, I slayed this white supremacist on Twitter, bro. I slayed him. I said, that's what's up. And he was like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, yo, your tweets don't really matter. Right. So now he's like, yo, I'm an ally. You know, I fight for my black brothers and sisters. This, that, and the third. You're not gonna talk to me like that, because I love you, man. I love you, and I acknowledge my privilege. So I said, cuz, check this out. White privilege is not transferable. Like, you can't advance me 57 white privilege points and I can use them the next time somebody following me around the store. You know what I'm saying? I can't be like, wait a second, cop. Before you pull your gun out, I got 972 unused white privilege points. You can't do it. It don't work like that. So you acknowledging it, that's a good thing. But he's a great graphic designer. You're more helpful if you come in these schools and you with me and you show some of these kids that being a graphic designer is a real job and a profession, and you can make money and you can turn up and take care of your family instead of fussing with somebody on Twitter that might not even exist.
Most positive things are real actions in real life and not tweets.
Direct service.
Now, how do you feel when you go into some of these spaces? And I know early on you ended up having to go and talk on some of these news, not having to, but having the opportunity to go talk on some of these news shows. How did you feel like they treated you, just as somebody that came from a different place than they did, as far as how you got into the whole writing and activism? It's a different start for you.
And today we're bringing in Negro expert D. Watkins to talk about being a Negro in 2016. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's for a sound bite and it's for a clip, and we don't really get a chance to flesh. We don't get a chance to flesh some of these stories out. And like, I've been on shows and they made my lower third. They made my title Black Lives Matter activist, and that's not on anything I've ever done. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I got love for some of them. Like, some of them, I got love for everybody. And one thing I had to learn in general was, like, regardless of the negativity, you just got to focus on the people you care about and doing positive stuff and trying to make sure the work you do count. But, like, come on, dog. Like,
it feels disrespectful.
You want to click? Like, you want to click that bad? Like, They fighting for clicks. So yeah, I had to occupy that space, and I don't do it as much anymore.
Why did they think you was a Black Lives Matter activist? Was that around the Freddie Gray time? Maybe?
That was around Freddie Gray time,
yeah,
and I think that it was really, really hot, and I think that was like what they were using to get their hits up. They wanted to try to say the young kids, and they were trying to paint the narrative that the young kids in Baltimore who tossed the town were like Black Lives Matter activists, and one, the town wasn't tossed. It was like under $3 million worth of damage. Two, none of those kids are Black Lives Matter anything. Like, these were like frustrated kids who saw their uncles and their dads and their grandfathers and their grandmothers be harassed by police, and they just got tired of it. Like, it wasn't no organizing. It wasn't like it wasn't, the media totally took that and they flipped it. Even when the cops got off for killing Freddie Gray, and people were like in the streets protesting, they used footage of the uprising from like the previous year to try to act like that was the climate in Baltimore, and that wasn't the case.
Right.
Well, you can pick up his books. Tell me your books, where they can get you, where they can follow you, and all that stuff.
I'm everywhere at D. Watkins World, and my books are everywhere books are sold.
All right, D. Watkins.
Well, hold on. Name the books, because right now the latest one is We Speak for Ourselves. But before that, you also have 2 New York Times best-selling books.
The B-side, and the Cook-Up, and We Speak for Ourselves are available everywhere books are sold.
Tell them how they can follow you on Twitter, D. Watkins World.
Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. My aunt house at D. Watkins World. everywhere at D. Watkins World. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Well, it's D. Watkins. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.